don't see, because animals are a little more like us and we see that they have fat like us, like we don't want to duplicate that, so that seems bad, but we're so segregated from plants that we just don't think of them as the same thing, that their fats can possibly affect us in that way too. So.
Okay, that's a really good idea. I like that. I never thought of that. So this is really cool for doing this kind of stuff. I always learn something new. I mean, most everything I'm sharing with you today, I learn new doing research for this presentation. And conversation like this is really awesome. Like, always learn something new. What else do you get from this? So what would, okay, maybe another way to ask a question. So what do you eat, and what do you think you should eat now? Talk to each other for a second. Okay, guys. It's always really nice seeing people talking to each other. Like, great ideas comes out of it. So thank you very much for your participation. Well, would it be fair to say that somehow we got this idea we should use vegetable oil supposed to be instead rather than fat? Yeah? Olive oil is good. You should take olive oil. All right. We know that not all vegetable oils are equal. Yeah, we all know this, right? So just vegetable oils is not necessarily going to be the good thing. So let's take a closer look. So there's also a study that actually correlates that with higher margarine consumption with increased incidence of heart disease. So you can see that as you are actually, butter consumption is not the problem. It's actually, well, I'm not going to say it's a problem. It's a correlation. We're finding it with margarine, not with butter. Yeah? So the next one, please. And what's really surprising to me is that consumption of vegetable oil has been correlated with increased incidence of skin cancer. And in fact, using sunscreen has not decreased incidence of skin cancer. Instead, it's actually correlated with increased consumption of vegetable oil.
Wow. But is it certain vegetable oil?
Well, okay, we'll get to that. But actually, there's more research. What I really want to find things in graphic forms, right? There's actually more research paper I have read that correlated with increased consumption of vegetable oil with breast cancer and ovarian cancer. But I didn't have a graph for it, so I didn't put it up there. Okay, next one, please. So, so obviously, not all vegetable oils are equal. So here's a list of the, I apologize, I couldn't find a better graphic, once again, that will show that more easily, that is more readable than this. So what are the most common, if you buy a bag of chips, what oil do you think is in there?
Corn oil, hydrogenated clog the arteries.
So if you're afraid of butter, you should be way afraid of chips. So, next one, please. So we saw all those charts before, right? Obesity going up, heart rates going up, incidence of heart disease and death going up. And what's also going up is consumption of corn oil. Next one, please. Now, most of us know this is not the kind of farm that our food comes from. Yes? We know that, right? Even though, when we visualize a farm, maybe this is what's in your head. We know in reality, this is not where our food comes from. Next, please. Instead, what are they eating?
Corn.
They're eating corn. Why are they eating corn? Because it's cheap. Why is it cheap? Because it's subsidized, and also it makes them fat. Very good, right? So makes them fat means they get more.
You are what you eat.
They are making more dollar, right? So So the next one, please.
We're finally getting it.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Oh, so this is the cow feed.
Exactly. So just like the humans, cows can't make omega-6 or omega-3 either. So what they get depends on what they eat. So it turned out their fat content, their fat composition is depending on what we feed them. And cows are not used to eating corn. Right? So they have, you have data show that cows are eating grass. Their omega-3 and omega-6 content is very similar to like a wild game. Right? And if they're eating grass, the ratio can be omega-6 and 3 can be 1:1. But instead, when you feed them corn, it makes a huge difference. So it's not just a matter whether you are eating butter or not. Rather, you are eating what kinds of butter. The question is not so much you are eating the butter. The question is, what is a cow actually eating? Sorry. I found it online.
That scares me.
Good job. You should be scared. I want you to be scared. So the point here is that even if you're eating organic cow, it doesn't matter. If the cow has been fed organic corn, then that cow is organic. Yeah? So even if the cow is eating organic corn, then the cow is officially organic. So when you eat the cow, you're eating a cow that's eating corn, so you're eating cow with different composition of fat. That's like favoring omega-6. The ratio goes up to 1:40 of omega-6. Scary kind of ratios.
So we should be asking on our food label to put not just fat, but omega-3.
They actually don't tell you that. In fact, it's been really difficult for me to track down, what they do. Some products actually say grass-fed, so that's what you want to look for. If you're eating cow, you want to look for grass-fed. And the same is true for chickens and eggs. So you have no idea whether, even if the chicken or egg says free range, organic, it doesn't matter. Again, if they're eating organic corn, that they're still giving you loads of omega-6. Right? So, and just before I forget, you know what it means to be free range, right?
They're not cages, they're
You have to have so much
All is required for them to label as being free range, and still they're packed up like this, is they have some kind of an opening this size somewhere. So the chicken has an option to go out if they choose to. That's all that's required to say free range. That's all it means. So
you said the best thing if you're buying chicken to buy grass-fed. What about, I've seen then labels that say grain-fed. Is that just as good?
Grain-fed is corn.
Grain, yeah.
Grain is corn. Yeah, you don't want grain-fed. And it's really, really difficult to find. You can find eggs that says omega-3 eggs. They're fed flaxseed oil. The chicken's flaxseed, not flaxseed oil. Which is good, which is what you want. Yeah. But they're very, very difficult to find. Vons does not carry it, but I think Whole Food does, and little health markets do. But it's almost impossible to find that information, actually. So this is the question I really wanted to answer. So is cheap food really cheap? You hear this argument all the time, right? I can't afford to eat healthy. Now, people really say that all the time. So is cheap food really cheap? Talk to each other for a second. All right. Okay, so who would like to share? Somebody wants to share? Yes.
Okay, well, when you eat cheap food, we know it has a lot of garbage in it, and it's not really cheap because then you get sick and you go to the doctor, and that's an expense there, but, it's not cheap.
That's one piece of it, right? So one piece of it is really not cheap at all. When you get sick, you have to pay, right? You wanted to say something?
She basically said what I said, but people always look at the short end. If you pay now, if you don't pay now, you're going to pay later. So we're better off to pay a little bit more now in the long run, and when we're healthier throughout our lives, than try to be, cheap about not buying good food.
All right, it's like the
And plus, I've read also that the less time a food takes to cook, the better. In other words, like fruits and vegetables, they usually are a little bit healthier. But it's-
well, we'll see. We'll see. Well, the point is, well, the cartoon was like Hamburger Tuesday and Pay Wednesday. Does anybody know that cartoon? That's very much become our sort of like the rule that we live by. So, but what is another piece? Yes.
You get what you pay for.
Well, really, wait a minute though. What about the tax dollars that's in our food?
Well, yeah.
Everything you said is true, but what about the tax dollars?
Just think about like a burger that costs $1. Okay, you start with the buns, the meat, the cheese, the pickles, the ketchup, the worker who made it, the wrapping, the advertising, the shipping, all of these inputs, and they add up to $1.08. That makes no sense. So where's all the money coming from?
All right, good job. So don't forget that you are actually paying big time, right? Food tax dollars, right? Okay, so this is one piece. Next conversation. So all that was just about what's in your food. The first one was tax dollars, right? So I invite you to really keep thinking about this. Is your tax dollars at work, and what is it actually doing to you? The next conversation is I started looking at this report on human exposures to environmental chemicals. And again, this report is prepared by the National Institute of Health. I'm only taking governmental papers. So, and they actually tested 212 chemicals, and they tested, I think, about 2,400 people across the country. So here's again, next please. I hate wordy slides, but I decided to just take their exact report so you see the report and not my paraphrasing instead. So this is from the summary of the report. The report is really, really long, but this is from the summary itself. And it says, starts right out, widespread exposure to industrial chemicals. And so the very first one is also known as PBDE. These are flame retardants, and they're found in nearly all the participants. And one of the way you get it is through your food. Flame retardants. Next one, please. So, unfortunately, these couches don't come with a warning sign. They should. In order to make it really nice and comfy and bounces right back up when you get up, we have to put all kinds of crap in it. And this crap, if you don't put flame retardant on it, it will just go explode if it gets hot, right? We can't have that. So we have to put flame retardant to make sure it doesn't explode when it gets really hot. But this flame retardant is actually very volatile. So it can actually get through your skin, and it gets into the environment, and it gets to your food. Next one. What they all have in common is that they all have flame retardants in them. So you can, they're so cute.
Get a real one.
Flame retardants are actually found in fabric, so you actually can be wearing it. They're in bedding, so you're sleeping in it. So you're nice and soft. In carpet, you're standing on it. In your computers, you're typing on it. On your TV. And it is in your food. And how does exactly flame retardant get into our food? We don't really know exactly. They get into waste many ways, and we know that we're finding in our blood. You saw that in just about every sample that's been taken is in their blood. Some ways it can get through, obviously through the environment, it gets into the soil, gets into the water. It's also when the vegetables and fruits and vegetables, even fruits and vegetables, when they're being shipped in crates, these plastic crates, again, they're flame retardant on them, they're stored. We do all kinds of amazing things to our fruits and vegetables to keep it looking pretty for long periods of time. So all that, during that period, the flame retardants are actually leaking into the food. Yes?
What about the waxes that they put on fruits?
Oh God, that's another whole category I decided not to go into. There's like over 20 different kinds of stuff they put on